Welcome to my master class. Ha, just joking. I'm just really manic. But seriously, I am manic. I live with mental illness. Currently, right now, I'm in a state of hypomania. So, I have almost 2 decades of experience with serious mental illness. So it's like no skin off my knees or whatever to do this. But yeah, I kind of want to share what that would be like. And so I have no clue how long this video is. I'm gonna just briefly talk about why I'm gonna talk about mental illness, talk about mania, just kind of like the what to do with it and what I like to do with it, what I do with it. For this is just gonna be what I do with it verbally, what I do with my thoughts, how to wind down. Like right now, I probably can't get to sleep, but maybe in 6 hours I will be able to get to sleep. And we'll talk about how much sleep I get. Blah, blah, blah. But if you can hang with me, even just for like the first little tidbit, I'm going to talk about a rafting topic, and we'll see if we can make it fun. It's going to fit somewhere. Let's see if it's even tolerable. And then any of the other topics, if I go on for 6 hours, I have no idea. I'll put them in the description, and that's plenty of an intro. Let's get into it. Mania, hypomania. I know people do not like it. They're like, ooh, you're in a state of hypomania. You shouldn't be. And for me, you get to the point where you can't even talk about hypomania. You can't even talk about just the normal reality that you're experiencing, because it's going to like trigger other people to be like, oh, you need help and stuff. And it can be intense. Just that's why I want to talk about it, because you instantly have symptoms of like getting kind of more manic, and how do you like wind down from that. Yeah, so like really like the acting classes, or just anything that you can put yourself outside of that perspective. Okay, from rafting, if you're a true master, you can make anything a game. So, and you can you can make it fun. Down the spectrum is, ooh, can you even make this tolerable? So, the first game that I use that's relevant is Escape Room. Mental illness can be paralyzing, or I don't even know what to do with my life the next few minutes, my day, how to get to sleep. It can be paralyzing. So Escape Room is, let's say I'm and you don't want your life to just get in total disarray. And for the most part, how to do small tasks. This will solve that. Use it a lot in the bathroom. Let's say I got my toiletries all out, and I always have to have everything in its place. Like kind of Seinfeld-ish. But I'm definitely not like that. Things get crazy. So how do you get them back in their place? Escape room, bathroom, toiletries out. You just say, all right, the mission of this escape room, or the key to solve this escape room, is basically just put all your toiletries away. But you can't leave until you do. And even just that makes it enough of a game where it's like pretty fun. The other game that I play is see one, do one. So if like I see my toothbrush and toothpaste out, hey, I'm gonna put it away. That game is interesting because if you're like, ooh, I see that the kitchen floor is dirty, I'm gonna go sweep it. But when you're playing that game, if I'm sweeping the kitchen floor and then I see something else that needs to get done, it gives you this choose your own adventure, where you can be like, I'm going to do the next thing that I see, because that's, I don't know, maybe more entertaining than like sweeping up the kitchen floor. So then you do that item, and then whatever that task is, then you might see something else But that game is that you have to go back and complete all the tasks. And that is how if I'm trying to organize my house or do a bunch of different tasks at once, that is my primary way to multitask. And if you're with me for this video up to this point, that is gold. Because how do you do like 100 different tasks in the day? That can be a paralyzing concept. But the fact that you know they're all going to get done, but you kind of got your, like, you know, all the pots on the stove, but in such a satisfying way, because it's such a choose-your-own-adventure. Sweeping the floor's half swept, see something else, like dishes, I don't know, just keep this real simple. Start doing the dishes, you know, notice that the dishwasher filter needs to get clean, clean that. So the fact that you get to choose a different task makes you feel like you have just a lot of freedom. And then it's also kind of like the Bill Clinton, you know, as I've seen him on talk shows where he can talk about such a variety of topics, and still if he was asked a single or a composite of questions, always able to finish complete thoughts and answer them all. And it's just kind of this, it turns a scattered, you know, mess into like, that's amazing. So that's also what I want to do with this video, because it's a really good way of showing bipolar mania, and I'm just in a state of hypomania. This is honestly, it's embarrassing, because it's embarrassing that this is my normal freaking reality, but it's so impossible to share with people, because it's just uncomfortable. But it's uncomfortable because of the, like, what I feel through the, what, you know, societal pressures, like through that lens of how it should be viewed. So it's like, with mania, you get a little bit less inhibited, and full-on mania, you might have zero inhibitions. You know, I want to be frank too, because I will lose my train of thought or pause, but if I can be brutally honest, especially if it's something I was thinking about and it might be entertaining or funny, I was like, yeah, even in this video, it's like, yeah, if you wait 6 hours, maybe I'll take off my shirt. And that's just maybe to show you body weight, how that's related to mental illness. If I lose a lot of body weight, get real thin, that's no good. I'm pretty lean right now, and yeah, that kind of loses the buffer. So don't have to backtrack here, but what we're doing is we're using that see one, do one. I have a thought, I'm going to go with it, and I can kind of go back and sweep the floor and put the dishes away. But that is the first way I wrote a story in 24 hours on mania, and I really want to share this, but it's uncomfortable. Like, there is no context. If I shared you this, it would just be pretty much straight embarrassment. And it's not that bad, but it's just you feel sorry for the person that has mental illness. Or if I put content out there that I'm like, oh my god, that is TMI, I shared too much, too transparent. I'm doing a lot better on, like, knowing my boundaries of, like, no, this, like, I don't even care. This is transparency that breaks down stigma. This is what I am as a person. This is what I want to bring to the world, and it should not be embarrassing. It's just who you are as a normal freaking person living with mental illness. But wow, it's really hard to have a voice. So that's why I do best hanging out with peers with mental illness. I am now a leader of a peer group that meets, and it's just really satisfying. I coin a lot of phrases, seen it all, we haven't seen it all, heard it all, but nothing can shock us. So that's when you're part of a group of people that have mental illness, and that's kind of the comfort that you feel. It's yeah, you're able to open up. It's not embarrassing, you know. Nothing can shock us. I have jokes. I guess I just got to be frank about it. I got a joke about running to the police station naked. Like, that's it's pretty freaking hilarious. Uncomfortable. I was running up the street and my neighbor, it was only like 12 at night. That set off a huge hospitalization mania, blah blah blah. That was only 3-4 years ago. I've stayed at the hospital for the last 3 years, so I've been doing good. But yeah, the neighbor up the street's like, "Whoa, dude!" He kind of had a smile on his face because that was just like what? Yeah. Try to make it fun. Try to find the humor in that stuff. And but anyway, so a whole 24 hours writing. I don't know if you guys are, if people are interested in that type of content. I'm willing to share it. One thing with this dialogue, I'm just trying to figure out what are ways for me to be able to share a story that comes across as authentic, you know, not humiliating. You know, I don't mind this format right here because, I mean, if you're still watching, you know, it fits right into that realm of like, I'm watching somebody's diary. And that's totally cool. It's kind of the Lewis and Clark of mental illness. It's like day one, this is what's happening. And I'm looking to be a better speaker off the bat. Get rid of those ums, uhs, hard pauses. Makes concise thought. And then once the ball gets going, you can talk as fast as you want. Ooh, is this even tolerable? First topic up was rafting. This is going to be a way to just spitfire ideas. Because I can rattle off 10 ideas within 30 seconds. And you know who's going to watch this video is I'm going to watch this video. A lot of the content that I make, I don't know, I like the people that are honest. It's like, geez, I spent 20 hours, like the Grand Canyon, you know, like documenting all the rapids and camps. I probably spent 3 40-hour weeks, you know, 120 hours putting that together. And I do this because I have time, because my mental illness, you know, puts me in bed all day. I run across challenging times where, my body's not going to sleep. And once I cross that 24-hour, once I know, like, I'm going to be up for 24 hours, I'm going to be up for 30 hours, that's kind of my limit. That's when I will get to sleep. That type of stuff only happens every once in a while. But often enough, once a month, twice a month, it can happen that often. And it feels dangerous to me. It's just like, that's why I put out, the red flags go up. I know I can't get sleep. If I'm going to hit that 24-hour, 36-hour, I make darn sure I am not going to hit that 48 hours up. That gets into territory that I'm really curious about, of like meth users. I really appreciate YouTube that you have content. I've only seen like one video of, like, you know, the guy who does videos on drugs, and obviously meth was his favorite. But anyway, referencing that, and maybe referencing other people's, like the body forgets how to sleep. So you talk about, and I know nothing about meth use, but I just know through the grapevine the symptoms. And yeah, the body, it becomes impossible to sleep. So that is a very similar symptom. It's like my body forgets how to sleep. My last manic episode was 6 night on a river trip, Middle Fork salmon, 17 friends. Should have been a great experience. From driving, I'm just like, ooh, this is not good. First night, maybe an hour of sleep, not good. Went on the trip, 6 nights, no sleep. Most manic I've ever been. No one really knew. That's why my call for help was actually just running to the police station, because I knew they had CIT officers. I was also, like throwing my parents the fingers, because I'm approaching age 40. That was a few years ago, but I'm 39. It's very difficult living with a handicap that really puts these limits on your life of like, baby steps. And I was done, but I also want to do my own thing with mental illness and live medication free, which so I've stayed out of the hospital the last 3 years. People probably don't like that, medication free, getting hypomanic. What the heck you doing? And I'll have a dialogue. I'm open to a lot of things. I am more open. I am less restrictive minded. But I also know myself. I'm the expert in my own reality. And I can learn. I can learn not to run to the police station. But that was a drastic measure to actually seek help. Now, it took split seconds to actually get there. I was actually flipping the birds, not wanting to live with my parents anymore. And because I knew that going back to the hospital meant being on another year of meds, I just couldn't tolerate that. And I knew I could recover fast. So I was in a situation, this is perfect. I was in a situation where I felt let down personally, because I worked so hard to actually figure out a way for my body to actually figure this thing out. It's like you're doing real trial and error science that, from the outside perspective, doesn't get any credit at all. People don't like it. It's like, stay on your meds, buddy. Stay in your lane. But I've just crafted so much. And I've already failed 5 times, so I know that. So when I give advice for other people, or if they're like, oh, I want to do that too, my first words out of my mouth are, you will fail, and you will fail fast, but you will learn something from your failure. So the next time around, you will learn that aspect. Does it get easier? Hell no. Some of these manias, all of my manias, like the second one was worse than the first. Third was, they get worse, or they get where your symptoms are like, my symptoms of delusional hallucinations, sight, sound, smell, like smelling things. The third episode, I smelled things that weren't there, just out of the blue. Alright, so I can only capture 19 minutes on this Nikon, and that's my, so that's complete thought. And I'm going to do this until I get tired, and then you can kind of see that process of mania. But anyway, I think you got it. Do another 20 minutes, and this might be end of topic. That's how I have to have it. The next topic might be completely new, different. So it's just my way of saying pump the brakes. And I'm going to zip the lip. Alright, 19 minutes on the clock. I said I was going to talk about a topic of rafting. Kind of as the, if you're going to stick around for that, this would be the topic of rafting. But this is opening up doors to talk about sections of mental illness that I really want to share in. It's really difficult to share through this lens. My my plan is to, even if I have to pay a couple people, you do it in a podcast format. It really works if I have kind of outsider friends. Like the people on that river trip were perfect because outsider enough that, you know, just kind of felt like cool enough, but I didn't have to be like too long-term attached to these folks. So I was just really able to kind of be gregarious and share. But there was the third episode in Baltimore. I was actually caught homeless for like it was only homeless for 3 days, but I was literally stranded and, you know, no help. So this format, I'm able to maybe hold two thoughts at the same time. But the rafting topic is rafting safe. Try to make a video on this in more detail, but like I said, it can take 10 hours to make a simple 2-minute video. But yes and no, rafting is just as safe as driving. Sometimes you've heard that, and that is true. I did all the research from my perspective. Got to take my word. You can look it up. But what you look up is user days rafting. So like one day rafting. It's about 3 hours of your day. You could do twice. You can go down like 6 hours. But let's say just a 3-hour day is one user day, and it's deaths per 100,000 user days. So if you went rafting 100,000 times, how many times would you die? Twice. So yes, the statistics. And if you car driving, all you got to do, you know, if you do the engineering, I'll just tell you it. Average person drives 10,000 miles. All statistics on car accident deaths are deaths per mile driven. Kind of interesting. And it turns out that about a 300-mile drive, I don't know, however you feel, let's say 100 to 300-mile drive is the same danger as going rafting for 3 hours. So, like, don't quote me on that, but that's how you kind of correlate those two. And they're about even. So if I drive 3 hours to go rafting, the raft trip will be just as dangerous as that ride. So that's fairly safe. Now, is it safer than skydiving? Well, skydiving should be statistically just a little bit safer, but in the hot spots, like Colorado, this company might have, I mean, they're just really shelling out the skydiving. They might have 7 deaths a year. Don't quote me on that, but Colorado rafting at high water, they can have 7 deaths in Colorado that are commercial related because it's statistically proven that's how many people will die, because Colorado has that many people. I mean, kind of over that 100,000, it's, you know, up into the 300. And those statistics are really easy to find. So rafting, high water Colorado, you're, instead of 2 deaths per 100,000, you're like 7 deaths per 100,000. So there is a spike there. So that's why they want you to be educated to say, if you go rafting at high water, you're taking a higher risk. And you are. Go skydiving. So that's the cool part of that video, is like, at the end of the day, if you're not going to go skydiving, if that's too dangerous for you, this raft trip is more dangerous. I mean, just, I want to just say categorically more dangerous, because it requires you as the end user to be responsible for your own safety. Where skydiving, you know, you're just a big old, you know, beanbag chair in front of the, you know, whatever, just a dead weight behind the guy that guts to get you. Maybe tonight we'll talk about this topic. It's very interesting. But the golden kind of info in this is how you die. That's more important. Not if you died, but how you die. That's what the human brain is so intrigued by. It's like, oh, how did that guy die? Oh, yeah, you got too close to the cliff. I don't get close to cliffs. They're like, oh, yeah, my friend gets close to cliffs. Yeah, he'll probably be, hitting the Darwin Awards book. And then kind of life goes on. That's how we sometimes statistically treat death. So skydiving, you can pie chart it, and like, what do you think happens? Like, your chute don't open, but you got two. So, see, don't quote me on this, but it's still just like 1/3 of the deaths are landing the darn unit, with the parachute open. It's just bad landing. You swing in, like do a turn right before you land. Well, you're gonna like maybe accelerate too fast, and you get to the point where you're going fast enough that, ooh, yeah, you're dead. Like, it doesn't take much to just rubble your body into the ground. So it's not chute's not opening. Like, 1/3 of the deaths are just kind of that end user. So if you are getting into skydiving, you're like, oh, boom, never thought of that. Like, they're packing the chute is half the battle. That next part that's going to be your skill to stay alive is kind of right at that, landing, right at that end part. And then so I'm glad there's, the Northwest Raft, now Gear Garage, really talking about this rafting. I'd love to talk about rafting, and I'm glad that they're super opinionated, because I am too, it's just, it'd be great if 10 people had kind of podcasts on rafting like that, so you just see all the opinions, and that's where, I want to make sure I'm a good listener. And it's important that you're heard as the end user. So you're not just like, oh yeah, I wouldn't do it that way, but to be like, this is the way I do it. This is why I'm okay with doing that. And here might be a couple reasons why I wouldn't do it, or, why it goes against somebody else's thoughts. But yeah, so is rafting safe? I like to say, would you go skydiving? Like, go skydiving. Rafting is less safe than skydiving. But statistically, it's still safer than driving, unless you're high water on any river. It might be 7 times more dangerous. But then what happens, with the statistics of, like, what happens if you fall out of the raft? Does your danger just go up exponentially? And then there's is it okay that rafting is dangerous? And for me, I have to come to the conclusion, the most frank and honest way for me to live is to be like, yes, rafting is greatly dangerous, or yes, it is dangerous, and that is what makes it fun. What makes skydiving fun? Well, shoot, your freaking chute might not open, and you might die. That is literally half of the equation. And if you compare skydiving to rafting, great video. Obviously, I'm not gonna waste my time like linking all these. That's the part that takes 20 hours. Like, you just kind of waste your time as a YouTuber. And I mean, I just want to talk about, as a diary format, I just want to kind of get thoughts out of my mind, because then once they are, then I can, like a bird, just like regurgitate, like whatever, like basically get more nutrients out of them. It's a way to lose your train of thought. Just say something that's just a tad embarrassing. But using this, and this is maybe just a horrible skill, but like to keep the kind of manic rhythm going, you just like go on to whatever you're thinking, and hopefully it doesn't fit into the category of like, limits, too much information, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I just got these other topics. Like, I really enjoy dreams. I'm a heavy dreamer, heavy space. Like, I just space out, see things, very interesting. Just say, is skydiving safe? Is rafting safe? Rafting, if you say it's not safe, that's what makes it fun. Skydiving doesn't seem it's safe, they'll say it's statistically really safe, but does it feel safe? No, it feels like you're gonna die. And the waiver, rafting waivers should be more like skydiving waivers. Skydiving is like, hey, like I'm in control of your actual life. Like I pack the chute. Like there is plenty of human error that goes into, hopefully, that's kind of the opposite. There's less human error that goes into skydiving because you got maybe equipment malfunction, but there's plenty of human error still that goes into skydiving. Where rafting, there can be just a ton of, it's a multi-complex sport. Every river is not the same. Guides can start, it's a recreational sport where guys can start with, just 1 week of training. Not much, 40 hours worth of kind of learning. I mean, it might only be like 10 hours on the water, like even stick time. And they're going to guide you down. So there's interesting. But, like, don't shy away from rafting. Just know that it's dangerous. Like, that's what makes it fun. And that's okay. No matter how safe rafting is, it's still going to be some percentage of people die every time you go 100,000 times. And you get to the point where you have to be okay with that. I was on the Wenatchee. I was a third-year guide. There was a death on our trip. Not going to talk about that for this trip. For this video. But yeah, when you're, and even then, like, it wasn't my boat. As a group, we got separated. So then you're just like, well, whose fault was that? It was kind of like, could have been on all of our shoulders. We all had a small role in not knowing that we were separated. Like, literally, it got to the, maybe just the dynamic of starting that river the way companies do. You stretch out, but who knew the most deadly rapid is the, whatever. You had a death. Two people that had to experience that, and they might not go rafting anymore. Does it affect all the others? Not really. You're separated from that. So there's this topic, it's not a game, it's not fun, but there's a topic of death that is, well, if it's a statistic, it can be kind of funny. If it's someone, your relative, no, it's not. Like, that's going to impact you for the rest of your life. If you honestly categorize death as its effect as a definition, death always affects the living from a rational scientific perspective. Or from whatever we're going to know in our lifetime, potentially. There's nothing, once you die, you're dead, right? So, yeah. But everyone has to live with that. But it's just so interesting, and this topic will help you with your mental health because it puts something into perspective. That something is this, that I just told you about a person that died on a rafting trip that I was involved with. Do you care more than just the fact that it was a 2 out of 100,000? Out of 30 years on the Wenatchee, 3 people have died. If you're looking for 1 death a year on the Wenatchee, that's the volume. 1 death every 10 years, and we perfectly had that many deaths on the Wenatchee commercially. So from that aspect, dang, that's not a funny way. That's actually kind of a rude way to look at it, but that's an honest way. And, if I die on a river, I will be a statistic. From even the legends that have died on rivers, there's a part of our brain that puts them categorically into a statistic of like, oh, how did they die? okay, I'm gonna try to not to do that. Or like, well, that's not me. So I'm gonna go about my day. So that brings up two topics that can be talked about. One is, well, take a minute, just because you're not gonna die that way, because like you don't raft, you don't use that type of craft. You don't use a kayak. You're not going to, I just want to speak honestly, kayaks get pinned. You're basically boating a freaking climbing chalkstone down the river. Like, it's just like, thunk, thunk. Where, yeah, rafting is going to get pinned, people are going to fall out. From that perspective, rafting, yeah, and if you go to the data, categorically, there's a huge section of just entrapment. Like, entrapment, not due to foot entrapment. I mean, so maybe we're doing a good job of like educating people. That there are some classic examples. Swiftwater rescue, going down, gals. I think it was a gal. Maybe look it up. Moose River, somewhere in the New York, Maine, either of those two states. Swimming down, boom, get stuck. Don't know if that one's a fatality. Probably. I mean, yeah. I think it. I mean, what do you do? But it was like just fluke. But it's not. Like, if you put your feet down, hopefully we're drilling that into people that, like, your odds from 2 in 100,000 just maybe skyrocketed the second you were starting to do that. Your odds from 2 in 100,000 of falling out of a boat, no one want to talk about that. Because we still, like, 3 years ago, I tried to do some swiftwater rescue class with a raft company. Now, I got mental illness. And, I mean, just from the perspective that it's hard to get on a sleep cycle that fits class. And I get really excited about rafting. So I have to know that. And it doesn't really work. But one of the aspects that I brought into that, I was out of the game for a little while, and I'm always going to have that in the back of mind that I was on a trip where there was a death, and I don't know this. I get irrational about the statistics or how to let things go. Like, is it okay that a boat flips? Well, let's talk about the scenarios of where that's happening. Like, I flip all the time on the surf wave, and that really gives me practice. But for even a new person, like in a swiftwater rescue environment, that like, hey, we're going to do some, not swiftwater rescue, but like guide training. Like, hey, we might push our limits here and flip. Is that okay? Well, then you want to go into the idea of like, what's going to happen? Like, are you one that's really just wedging your feet in? In my raft, when I was surfing, the bottom fills with water, and it pushes that floor down. 20 minutes. So when you surf into a wave, your boat fills with water. Also, you buck up vertically. The weight of the water pushes the inflated floor down. All the thwarts kind of stay locked in the same position. And my boat turns into a big slip and slide when it's at a steep 45-degree angle. My whole body slipped underneath the thwarts. I got like both feet caught in there. Maybe instantaneously, but I sure remember one foot just deep, like almost up to my knee. And, not too much reaction mentally, emotionally, but I was able to catch a breath. Like, you're just like, oop, I can catch just a breath. So I felt like I had some time. But then you get into a situation. This happens with rafting. You have to find a solution. You have to have a plan, execute. Like, it's better to stay calm, but there's, like this, you got about 3 seconds underwater before, like, I think you could drown in 3 seconds. I honestly do. the panic underwater is, I gotta diverge from this. Because I use this energy of like, wow, if rafting is a little dangerous, I'm not very good at making things a game right off the bat. Not even making it fun. I fit right in here of maybe statistically giving good information that might make your day make more sense, make the risks seem more sense. Especially with rafting, from the client's perspective, there is no risk. What's the risk? I have no idea. From my perspective, let me tell you what the risk is, and let me at least make a demonstration that we can practice so we get to do something, so then you'll be better prepared. You can follow along with this one. I would like to make it a game. I don't think I can do it at a raft company. I got mental illness. My guiding days might be over. I have to really check in with myself, the company, and everything to make sure, yep, I can make solid decisions. I mean, for the most part, I'm making better decisions than most people out there, guaranteed, just from a high skill level. But I don't want to be unsure of myself. But, yeah, make your crew hold your breath. So, like, we're going to hold our breath. Like, even that's kind of exciting. Holy Toledo. So here you go. Do this. Breathe in, hold for 10. Breathe all the way out and hold for 10. One breath in and 10. Okay, I'm dialed in. I practice. I can like walk from my car, like far Walmart parking lot. I'm gonna do a video on that. Far Walmart parking lot, one breath, just walk all the way into the front doors, just ready to like pass out. But if you do pass out, someone's gonna be there to scoop you up. Probably not gonna die. That's a really good practice. I mean, hands down, what's gonna save your life? Like, the thing that's gonna kill you is lack of breath. And even that, like the holding your breath 3 times in 3 different scenarios, the exhale is great. Exhale and hold your breath for 10. Because that's the only time you might feel a panic. I have to do like jumping jacks. Like I have to like exhale and then start doing jumping jacks for 10 to get the same like I'm gonna die reaction that you get with water. Only if you're an experienced diver will you get the mammalian reflex that'd be like, oh, I'm underwater, like I can hold my breath for 20%, 50% longer. Hell no. Everyone else is like, I'm underwater, I don't know where the air is, you got 3 seconds. Before utmost panic, and you might not make it. Luckily, most people's reflexes are good enough to make sure they can hold their breath for that 3 seconds. But if any part of your limbs, like I was, like stuck under the boat, can't get breath, I had to go underneath, hold for probably, let's just say it was a 3 count, it always feels longer, 3 seconds, do something, push my body out. That is something that a client isn't going to do. So, like, there's a real fine line between, like, even a lax guide potentially is going to keep their crew alive more because they're, you know, it's like, I might be like, hey, let's wedge your feet in, you don't want to fall out. But someone who's just like, oh, no, dude, just like, let's just chill it out, and you fall out, like, I really do believe you're statistically less likely, like, it's a good thing to fall out, flip out, get separated from a boat, especially multi-day rafting, gear everywhere. entrapment's kind of an issue. But anyway, we might be splitting hairs on that topic. But I got nervous of like, you know, is even one flip not okay? I flipped a crew on the lock saw, and the instant we flipped, you know, it was a powerful lateral. We're getting like tunneled, pretty clean though, you know. It's just like, but my mind goes to like, I have no idea. You know, like you do the counting heads. Well, the opposite of that's like, well, someone's drowned, and now we got to, you know, go into that mode, which then you're looking at very low percentages of recovery, even though the best thing is to stay heads up, retrieve, CPR, you know, go through that whole medical procedure to make sure, you know, you got the best chance. But yeah, just from a flip, and like, I can't even in my head be okay with that. So that's why I do a lot of rafting by myself. I want to know the risks, and I have a hard time knowing that people might not know the risks, and then things happen, and then you're just, if things happen, like, yeah, I guess you didn't know. You didn't know that rafting was, I mean, I don't know, I guess it's just as safe as driving, but high water, it's not. It's maybe 7 times more deadly than skydiving. You know, for those months of high water, like, you should go skydiving 7 times will equal this one rafting trip. Now, and then other rivers have statistically less, just by their nature. This is a river that's, you know, unless it's something weird and fluke, you're not gonna die from. Like even the Gauley, it has most of its deaths from respiratory failure after retrieval, and then we're talking, you know, 24, 39, you know, under 40, potentially healthy, in the water, you know, maybe sucked in a little bit, getting a little bit of water in the lungs, and then going to cardiac, respiratory, just kind of like whatever the body can't get oxygen afterwards. A couple of the scenarios are like that. And then, yeah, then you might get a brutal entrapment on the Gauley. But, so it brings up the topic of, before each raft trip, can you pick out the 10 ways you are going to die on that raft trip? Like, and make it a kind of a fun game, statistical joke, you know, pre-thought of like, yeah, what are the ways we're going to die out here? And if you do that, you're probably not going to die those ways. You know, something else is going to be fluky. But you should always have that, like, hey, we're doing... And my slogan is, like, do 10 things right. So when the one thing goes wrong, it's not, you know, the thing that tipped everything over. And that's real important. You know, it's just like, whoa, didn't see that. But, man, we've been practicing good boat spacing. We're talking really good communication. You know, we did a safety talk. Everyone's... The second day on the lock saw, you know, I wrote this in a post on Gear Garage, was that you, been there, done that, and we're tired. Like, you know, we stayed up, didn't even party too much, but, you know, people are tired, and it's a workout. Every time down the river, it's a full-on. And you get... So it's just good to be like, hey, we know what we're up against, so let's try to make it as easy as possible, but keep our bow spacing together. So those things come up. But yeah, I think I did it. I talked about, is rafting safe? Sure, statistically. And I don't want to be dishonest. Because after I got done with it, I was just like, no, rafting is not statistically safe, and it's better to tell people that it's more dangerous, but it's kind of not. But the safety falls on you as the client, and it's an interesting topic for raft companies of how you minimize those. I think my breath holding exercise that I just did is more on par with, is going to help educate people, because it gives you that land-based training that you're like, whoa. That was, I couldn't hold my breath for 10 seconds after I exhaled. I don't know how you did that. I can hold my breath for about easily 2 minutes. Because I practice all the time. Probably have lost a lot of brain cells. I always like Google is like, wait, is this bad for my brain? Like holding my breath and practicing. I don't do it so much anymore. I kind of got my practice underway, but I need to practice more underwater. Separate video, don't want to talk about now, but I did get a small scuba tank. In my videos, I have a small canister, and this is why living with mental illness should make sense to you from the perspective that plenty of ways to be suicidal, even on mania, make poor decisions, stuff like that. But I am afraid of the river enough that to the point where I want to be like, the river is going to kill me. I'm going to die in the river at a young age. To just have that mindset. But then don't leave it at that. Be like, well, how and why, and every time you're on a river, the answer is yes, and what are the 10 ways you are going to die? For me, that's right in here. I'm not making it fun. This is what I do from a scientist's perspective, to be like, what are the things? Because you'd be surprised. Every river trip, there's like, dang, that was sketchy. Didn't know I shouldn't do that. And I want to talk about examples, but not make an example of, legends. People in comments are like, ooh, yeah, I shouldn't do that. That's risky. Darwin Award, blah, 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 solo boating. But, like, risk-taking in sports for what some comment as fruitless pursuits, in my eye, is more like goal-oriented, or like, let's say you were like in the military, combat, you do have maybe purpose. You for sure, I don't want to, I'm sure there's plenty of days, I don't know, I'm getting more well-rounded in my thoughts, more worldly, but yeah, it's, reading Jack Reacher, very, very good to educate. I do a lot of, no topic, I'm just saying I don't want to be like hippie about it, where I might have been at one point, but yeah, obviously there's a lot of purpose, so, I have a hard time, yeah, I should just be frank and say, yeah, I don't thank a lot of soldiers, and, it's like, ooh, it seems political, or just so hopefully I show appreciation just in life as a person of life. Yeah, I just want to. I guess I'll say thank you. I've read enough Jack Reacher books that I want to be naive too, or just that I will continue educating myself and not be afraid of education on political, worldly topics. Because it goes into mental health. It's like, it goes into like, yeah, we hear about deaths in the river all the time. Oh, they wear a life jacket? No? Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I don't even really care who that was. Don't really associate them as a family member. It's just a statistic, and that's an okay starting point, but it's also good to know that where you live is just a statistic. What your circumstances are, just a deterministic statistic. So it's hard to put yourself in other people's shoes. I have a hard time making the goals in America work for myself, and that's kind of my forte of like, I get you all that struggle with having options and, just keeping people alive from suicide. I really think I can add to the conversation there. can I add to the conversation of what it must be like if, you know, if America ever turned into a situation like Ukraine? It's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to wrap my mind around that. But the idea is sports in general, to me, are a way of self-sacrifice to a higher goal. You are passing the baton. Holy crap, like... Okay, it's so hard, these topics, because once it hits home, you have something to say. Legend. And sometimes, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Sam Grafton was a legend I followed. I watched his videos on how to high side a kayak through waves that you just shouldn't kayak through. But then you're like, well, how do you get through them? You high side your entire body. And I just remember watching those. And I'm high siding like Granny's wave. I'm high siding class 3 waves, you know. But just is the first. Super emotional. The first time I could actually watch a class 5 kayaker and actually figure it out. Where you're just like, I'm actually learning from this. And then, like, I get so pissed. Oh, like, I guess I'm just pissed right now. But, like, the community of rafters, boaters, kayakers, your comments on how, like, that's unsafe. Like, where are you checking yourself? Is it, I mean, at some point it just becomes abusive. Like, you're not adding to a community if you're like, make it a game, make it fun. Like, be that master out there that's like, oh yeah, like, what are you gonna say? Every video of Dane Jackson's? Like, I mean, that guy. I think about every. Okay, 19 minutes. Whew. Yeah, I get emotional. I think of Dane Jackson all the time. Of like, yeah, just absolute legend. And I mean, he's just the one that's just so charismatic, and then that I appreciate so much. And there's dozens of these kayakers, and it's from the outside perspective, it seems like a fruitless pursuit, but they are handing the baton to something that's like. So where I get so emotional, if you did one of his trips, like anywhere, you could be in a situation where you're just like, I have lived so much. That yeah, like the body's hard to kill, but when it something kills it, it probably dies pretty fast. But if you can stay away from suicide and yeah, I mean, he falls into a higher class of statistics, class 5, kind of class 6, but he's also a class 5, class 6 boater, rafting class 5, class 6. Kind of bringing it back to this level of education. Every time you're on great chart, obviously take my word for it, but you can really show class 1 boaters on class 1 rivers are just as likely to die as Dane Jackson running class 5 plus, his favorite runs, maybe a new adventure even. So just put that in perspective. Class 1 skills, class 1 river. Those class 1 rivers are deadly. Separate topic, but just hopefully you just know that in general. Class 3, that is the craziest, because like you have class 2 skills, you have class 3 skills at low water, 1 river. Like that was my college experience. Learning how to kayak even, you know, paddling that chalk stone down the river, tipping upside down, getting caught in a hole, like, you know, where you're just like, ooh, this is a spooky environment I'm not used to, and I'm still just doing it low flows. Yeah, class 5, class 3 skills, class 3 river, same likelihood of statistical death as Dane Jackson. You know, I mean, it might be, and I would say Dane especially because he's got class 6 skills on class 5 plus river. You know how it goes. I mean, obviously everyone wants to be a class 5 boater. If you say you're a class 5 boater, if you even use that sentence, you're, I don't know. You probably need to check yourself. I don't know. You probably need to. I don't know. Yeah, they're just kind of like a weird statement. It's like, why are you telling me you're a class 5 boater? Because once you do have that level of skill set and that level of competency, I mean, then it's a different conversation, obviously. But anyway, I can categorically say that I'm a class 4 boater, and I got back issues. I don't paddle much. I don't live near rivers per se. 2 hours away, 3 hours away from rivers. I enjoy the sport. I want to see someone else R1 at a high level. It's not a pipe dream, but one river that I put in perspective is the Stikine. It's like, how do you R1 raft the Stikine? Like what type of boat? Like Grand Canyon, I had a lot of success putting a lot of weight in a boat. Weight in a boat is the only way it's going to actually punch through waves. You would want the same kind of buoyancy as a kayak going through massive holes. You don't want to be creature craft in a boat you're not attached to and have some way of continual air pocket. You know, just those ideas. And yeah, that seems fruitless, but like I said, you are passing on a gift for something. You're passing on the gift of life, like literally. Yeah, life is such a bizarre thing, especially social media makes it probably amazing and paralyzing all at the same time, because it's a perspective, you know, it's comparison. But yeah, back to that concept of, I don't know. One thing in life is like every day you shouldn't. Well, I just like that perspective of like, yeah, I've done enough. Like, I'm not suicidal, but you know, it's like I'm so satisfied. Like everything else is just icing on the cake. Like this is, and there's so much that I'm afraid of saying stuff like that, where you just have like, oh, I don't understand where you're coming from, or like, because I come from a perspective of mental handicap, and if I don't talk about it, then people aren't gonna know. Like people don't know your handicaps, like if unless you share publicly your personal struggles, no one knows. And it's so hard. So it's at some point you have to go on record with like your friends to just make sure that relationship grows. Like, brutally honest right now, so I don't have to pause so much. I don't want to single out, so I just want to talk broad brush. Just because I want to make I statements for myself. Not a lot of you should, you know, it's like I might get caught saying you should do this, you should do that. But basically I want to talk about I statements and things that potentially might make my relationship with other people better. One is, well, I feel uncomfortable being like, wait. Like I have to tell someone what my needs are with mental illness. I would say at least 10 times, maybe 20. So like, just keep telling them like they forgot what my needs are, and keep telling them just because these are my needs, you know, you don't have to bend over backwards. It can be this loose, but I just need to know that, like, the more so here it is. I have a hard time getting on a sleep schedule, but I'm also doing a very good job of taking care of my mental health and getting really good sleep. Just being on a sleep pattern that, like, fits. When I need to go to sleep, when my body's ready to go to sleep, I'll sleep great. If I've lost a lot of sleep, I will sleep like 12 hours. I mean, that's huge. Some people don't have that opportunity. They're looking around the 4 or 5 hours a night on average for their life. And that's, for the last 2 years, Minnie and Mickey, always have things that are cute in your life, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've put down every time I go to sleep how many hours. It's been low this week, 5. This week I had to put some question marks, but 5, 5, 5, 12, 8, 7, 5, 10 and a half. So it's not spooky. 14 hours of sleep. And this ain't no joke. This is like hard, solid sleep. 10.5. And think about it. If I slept 10.5, and then stayed up for a normal 16-hour day, and then slept for 14 hours. So that means that sometimes my wake cycle is not that long, and sometimes my sleep cycle is really so, but 3 hours, and then 10 and a half. So, but now that sounds unhealthy. It's like, well, that night you only got 3 hours. Sometimes it is unhealthy, and sometimes it's not. Unhealthy is sometimes I get 3 hours and my body's ready to go. Like, absolutely nothing I can do, so I might as well get up. It's really bad for me just to sit in bed and maybe ruminate. That's why I'm using this as an experiment. This is just word vomit for most people. Obviously, most people that have actually gotten to this, almost hour into it, it's still diary based. It's like, wow, dude, found this guy's diary. That might be an interesting way to look at it. But what I want to do is I just want to hit send on YouTube, publish it, and I don't mind it being to the public, because it's that way of, like, I'll get better at content and I'll get better at messages. I really like to do stand-up comedy for mental health, have these soundbite messages. Alright, so here's my favorite. It's just like, my gift. A doctor gave me a label 15 years ago saying my life is hard. Saying, your life is hard. You need all the support you can get. And just being who you are today, you can help someone else. You can help others. Or at any point, whoever you are, however you're situated, you can help others. That was a little wordy. Oh, and actually, a doctor never said that. Like, a doctor would not say something like that. Okay, ruin the joke. But anyway, that's stuff that I say. And it's really important. There was never a point, my first hospitalization, like, literally, I knew nothing about mental illness. My parents knew nothing about mental illness. It's been 15, almost, going on 20 years of education for both me and my parents. Even my dad had a bout of severe mental illness, and he's at such an amazing place. Still deals with struggle. But, like, just the fact that we've all had that reduction of stigma, because suicidal ideation can hit anyone hard, and it's just so nice to maybe have that foundation. So, yeah, I can get stronger with those messages. Want to do more stand-up. Definitely want to get a footage of stand-up comedy, doing a little bit of mental health stand-up comedy, but at the bar, there's a Jester's bar in town, so, I mean, it's a fun bar, and none's too scary in Helen. I don't drink, but, I mean, I think it would go over well, and what I want to do is get some good footy of it actually going pretty well, like people, you know, in a bar perspective, like, laughing at jokes about mental health, and thinking, like, hey, this is pretty good stuff. Like, that seems pretty rewarding. 0 hours of sleep, and then with a skip day. So sometimes I have over 24-hour blocks of not going to bed. But, on average, if I count up a month, I'm getting 8 hours a night. So it's kind of weird how I can... So I figured out for myself if something is healthy or unhealthy. Alright, pretty satisfying. Lost my train of thought. And I don't mind pushing my train of thought for this because I'm working on getting thoughts out fast. Kind of, one, showing that hypermania or hypomania perspective. And, you know, 10 years from now, I want to watch videos like this to see where I was. My last kind of, like, video like this was probably 10 years ago. In between, you know, third and fourth and fifth hospitalizations, major episodes. And I used a lot of spirituality. I was in Seattle. Took some classes on shamanism. I was fascinated. I definitely was in a place where I wanted to belong to something, and gravitated towards a Church of Unity Church. It was a church that kind of celebrated all religions, so give them a... I don't know if they celebrated atheism. Because I would say these last 3 years, I started to make mental health videos 3 years ago, and when I made a channel... This is so interesting. I mean, I just find it interesting because it changed my perspective so dramatically, made me pump the brakes of what content I want to put out. And I didn't want to be... I mean, at some point, I mean, this is a story that I wrote in 24 hours. I mean, it's not that long, but just the fact that I sat down at 6 a.m. one morning, and I'm like, I was pumped. Like, it was just, I was new to just waking up and being like, my mind is on fire. Like, it is switched on, ready to go, and... I have a lot of coherent threads with this, 15 years later, in this verbal format, working on concise statements, working on being honest, frank, but this was the wordplay of how to have fluid thoughts. This was kind of my first experiment with that. I was like, wow, I can write for 24 hours, and it can be kind of just one seamless... I mean, to a degree, it's total vomit. Like, it's like, okay, you just vomited a statement there and vomited a statement there. When I was done with it, I was like, oh my god, like, I guess I was just way into analogy. I was like, this is Princess Bride. And it is, in a way. I mean, it's a story of growth. Guy does not get girl, but, yeah. It's not two losses either. It's a transition point. Every episode. That's why I ran to the police state. I was tired of my life falling off an effing cliff. Like, you're building something out of the sand, and you got to get used to that in life. Like, life is building sandcastles. I mean, from my scientific middle-of-the-road perspective, and just kind of keeping it honest, maybe, and fun. It's like, Life is meaningless pursuits. Yeah, I mean, life is goalless. Like, I don't know if these are spitting truths or facts, but like literally, it's not something that you get to the end of and you're like, oh yeah, met all my goals. I don't know. There's no one's patting you on the back at the end. It's so interesting. So it's the perspective. I guess death was the topic, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Don't know if I can make it a game, but I bring it up enough with my folks that we appreciate it. I'm just glad that they don't mind me bringing up the topic, and I'm naive to a degree that I have not lost anyone close. You know, we're haven't lost a kid, don't have kids, haven't lost a parent, have lost grandparents, uncle, cousin's kid. I want to share this topic. This was a really good one. I mean, this could be a whole video, or, you know, two-minute video. How many minutes in your life do you actually spend with people that you like love or care about? And some, it's a lot, you know. I mean, but even if it's your spouse, okay, 19 minutes. We'll get back to that. I gotta go back to something. Rafting for me is so much fun. I've already mentioned that my persona. I'll just be frank. I want to raft with people I don't care if they die. And I say that in a joking way. Like, all the people that I've rafted with, oh yeah. I mean, they're such, like, you know, like, I'm a loner, so I don't have really close friends. Like, these are people that I want to raft with once a year. But they fit into that category of, like, let's do it. It's like mountaineering. Let's climb Everest together. It fits into that warrior, military type of perspective of, like, we're in it for the same pursuit. We're taking equal risks. But yeah, and if they invited people, then that's theirs to deal with. And I'm a solo boater, so I want to, like, boat in a way that sets up safety for people. Yeah, can be, yeah. So it perfectly leads into, yeah, it's like a lot of people say, hey, I got a 14-foot boat, I can fit 4 people in there. Yeah, it's 4 people that don't know potentially the risks. But yeah, you're going to make it fun just because. And I wanted to go back to that statement. Class 3 boater, Class 3 river, just as likely to statistically die. But then, you know, it is some variety. Class 5 boater, Class 5 river. Actually, Class 5 kayaker, Class 5 rivers, that's a real high risk. I think the only equivalent would be like, yeah, you kind of got that Class 6 skill and you're doing Class 5 rivers. So, but Class 1 skill, beginner rafting, Class 1 rivers, still same likelihood to die. Class 4 boater, Class 4 rivers. Because you don't know. Yeah, it comes down to, like, I don't know what I don't know. And that's where people have fun until it's not fun. But what I wanted to, that is just for private boating. So there's this huge, I want to be on the perspective of, like, hey, I want to make commercial boating more enjoyable, funner, safer. I'm okay with deaths, and I really want open and honest, you know, info. Like, if you're gonna go rafting and you don't know, it's like, you'd be like, yeah, dude, we're going rafting. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. It's as safe as driving your car, but it's can be more dangerous than skydiving. So, like, go skydiving. Why don't you go skydiving? And the same thing, when I mentioned equal statistics, it's for private boating. Private boating is always way more dangerous than commercial rafting. Commercial rafting should always be kind of like, hey, this is my bus driver. You know, it's like, oh, that guy? It's like, he's sketchy. I don't know. It's like, but actually, riding in buses is like one of the safest things you can do. Even with potential hazards in people's personalities, you know, it's like riding in buses is literally, it's not as safe as flying. I just want to make that clear. Private rafting, private kayaking is, I don't know if it's like tenfold. I mean, just put it in your head that it's tenfold more dangerous than going commercial rafting. Like if you're doing DIY, doing it yourself, whatever level, whatever skill level, yeah, you might be 10 times more hazardous, but hopefully you have 10 times more knowledge. Yeah, just wanted to go back to that point. But I want food for thought. Right in here, how many minutes of your life do you spend with the people that you love? Because I want to make a correlation. And I mentioned spouses just right at the end of that last one. Yeah, the time that you're bickering or like is just filler, where you're just like, Jesus. I mean, I might be single for life. Like, it's... I need my stress and anxiety levels to be at like a pretty low level, and from what society has shown me about relationships, I don't see it. I also want to. I'm also handicapped to a certain level where it's not a give and take with relationships. Or, I mean, yeah, you're not bringing two things to the playing field that are of equal value. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm just the type of personality that's a little loner, and so satisfied. I'm sure people do not understand that aspect, or like they don't believe you. But like, you probably seen my rafting, R1 rafting. It's like I am so happy. I don't know if I'll talk a lot about solo boating. Obviously, it's a little more dangerous. I mean, kind of say that jokingly. Yeah. I mean, just not having another... Yeah. I mean, like, when the situation arises that, oh, you're gonna die, like, you're gonna... Yeah, you're gonna die of hypothermia. It's like, did you know that? Like, you're solo boating and you didn't tell anyone where you were. You don't have like a 3-day, like, oh, someone's gonna go know where the heck you were, and you're doing it cold weather, and you have to spend even like one night outside. I mean, you run the risks of even just hypothermia, and it's just like, oh, never thought of that. Never thought that I'd die of hypothermia. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, I mean, and even if you take first aid classes, it's so broad brush. It's really important to put yourself in scenarios. That's why I do not mind critical criticism of people being like, oh yeah, dude, like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, so it's a two-way street. I get how the rafting comments on videos are just kind of like, they're repulsive to me because it's just like, you didn't do that, you didn't do this. And it's like, also, you are... When you say those comments, you're putting... It's really easy to see what level of education, you know, of your commenting. Like, all the legends aren't being so... I remember, like, my first comment, I was more talking about, like, how a creature craft was getting caught in a hydraulic and, like, why it would do that. But that... I was doing that at such a low education level that I'm happy that the person kind of removed that comment, and it was just kind of long, and it was like, oh, what the hell am I doing? But yeah, it's one change on that. I have a hard time being frank and honest talking about maybe spiritual topics. Been getting a lot into atheism. I was talking about that, but just even because like, what the hell? You're gonna have to define spiritual. I've researched enough atheism, kind of like from the perspective of debating. Communication is very important because like from a scientific perspective, it's like, well, can we come to some sort of conclusion? But also from anyway. When a person is still alive, you're spending time with them in thought. Even close friends that you might only spend a few, like let's say like your once a year friends that you get to hang out with for a few hours. You know, it's like I'm kind of making that obvious, but of who that is in my group, I'm pretty lonerish. But anyway, I mean it could be all my friends for that matter, just kind of like once a year. But I just appreciate the thought of them, you know. And my grandma passed 2 years ago-ish now, 104. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, you spend, for some, I spend potentially more time maybe thinking about people than I've actually spent hardcore, like time with them, you know, just in the presence. So then, and that is a rational type of thing that can be kind of measured, computed. You can say, oh, how much time and thought have you thought about that person? I can quantify it if I wanted to, and that's where it doesn't transcend death, but it puts a perspective that there is no difference. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone dies, yeah, you're not going to be able to spend more of those times with them. But even vlogging like this, and then you know, just watching people, you know, I find it fascinating, documentation. Part of what I can do when I do wake up at 3 a.m., I've started digitizing family photos. I spent 5 years doing all my grandma and grandpa's slides, photos. So I got kind of to a professional level that I'm still just going to continue in the family. But I always need things that I can potentially do for income when I have to be handicapped with... I worked at the ski area for about 10 years or more, 12 years, and just to put a short cap on that, yeah, minimum wage jobs that are low stress, that's my alley, but I found that if I work for myself, I can do things a little more complicated, and I don't have any of the stresses of failure, like crazy commitment that just would make my mental world not work. Yeah, at the ski area I could do a seasonal job like that, but then I'd have to, you know, take a lot of time. So yeah, that's plenty. I'll talk about that more. But yeah, digitizing. So why am I bringing up a topic that kind of makes, I mean, it makes a little bit of a sense, but it's a little cutesy. Like, yeah, you think about someone, and if they die, you're still thinking about them, and potentially the situation's the same. I want to bring it up from maybe two perspectives. I forget the first one. The second one just popped in my head is like, so I live with my parents, and they're 72, and I don't know, they might die in, 1 year, 30 years, I don't know. But I'll like wake up, and then I won't know if they're dead or alive, just for a few seconds. I mean, just like I like, oh, like what? So it's like my mind's like in a future state or something like that, or it's just very relevant. So maybe something for me is, I just mentioned how I appreciate having conversations about death with my parents, and still don't know how to make that a game, make it fun, but I'm just right at this like, yeah, it's like, wow, that's fascinating conversation. Like, were you okay with that conversation? It's like, I hope I didn't, bring up something you were uncomfortable with. But I like talking about it. I don't know if you don't on that end of the camera. Yeah, then you can watch something else. Definitely filter your content, but I appreciate it. From my end, I think I can stay alive longer by being really transparent about that topic. And I don't mind seeing where other people are on that topic. Everyone's into a church or like and I'm not. I enjoyed the concepts of atheism from the perspective of learning how to debate, and it really helped my mental health. That's why I stopped making videos. Still haven't gotten to that topic. We'll see if we can circle back. I got my clipboard just for topics like that. Not atheist anymore, and why atheist stop videos. So yeah, we'll see. I am very hesitant to talk about subjects about mental health that are part of what people would call spiritual. Well, let's just get in. Why I stopped making my videos. Because one of my things is a visual hallucination that even if I look into this camera lens, I can see different colors. Like, when I was a kid, just, this messed with me. Love this segue. Twilight Zone. I'm 39. When you do the math, I was pretty young. Twilight Zone episodes. The guy, every time he looked into a reflection, like someone was getting closer and ready to kill him. So my first hallucination of that, I watched that, and terrifying concept. Like, what, I'm just going to look into something? And I mean, that's worse than saying the red rum, because you have to say that crap or whatever. I don't know what they say. And then something kills you. Ooh, yeah. There's nothing... This is so important. The mind is so on alert for hallucinations and something out of the ordinary. The deeper question is like, why? It's like, is that a means to an end? Is that an answer to a question? But all I know as a kid, I was in the bathroom. It's late at night, and then the towel rack had round, polished. They kind of do this fisheye, and I'm across the room, and I'm like, I just stare into that, and yeah, I like, you just see the guy behind you. And you're like, what the hell? And it's nothing. You just, see two flecks of whatever, different color. But you have to deal with that. And then, for a long time, I just would hardly look that direction. I didn't have, as a kid, didn't have any other way to deal with that except, I know if I look into there, I'm going to see something I don't want to see. So I just can't look over there. That's when it comes down to a handicap. You're limiting your life, like So when I made my first videos, I was like halfway through the video, I was like looking into the lens, I was like, ooh, I see a face. Like right now I don't see crap. But that's the easiest thing to see is like two eyes and a mouth. Like you look at a car, it looks like Cars from like whatever Pixar or Disney. Alright, so seeing a face in something, you know, just because you see something with two eyes and a mouth, that's what we're kind of trained to do. That one makes sense. Like, you know, we're looking for predators. We're looking for things that look like, you know, an animal. You know, see if they are a threat, friend or foe. Yeah. This one's going to be a safe one to bring up, I hope. Yeah, so fascinating. Brings up the topic of if you have mental illness or Alzheimer's at old age, it's going to be harder, just statistically, of having your mind break down into hallucinations at an older age when you don't have a lot of, you know, like a lot of life ahead of you or goals or stamina, drive to like figure things out. And so that's why I like to educate, because there's tons of little things that you can do to educate yourself on visual hallucinations. You mean, I don't have hallucinations. Yeah, we all do, but they're so minor and they're not affecting or triggering a severe mental illness. But it's just, it's good education so you can tell friend or foe. You can tell real, not real. Like, can you watch scary movies? A lot of my first manic episodes were so terrifying. They were worse than any other scary movie, and I was thinking about scary movies at the time that I've seen and just made everything so much worse. But why did I stop my videos? Because I said, hey, I see a face and it's one of my ancestors. And yeah, I've seen that face before. Well, that's just poetic. And I put on the video, like, I see a hallucination in my camera, like, click on this, get a lot of views. And they got none. I tried to make a new channel and there's just, like, no takers. And then atheist videos started popping up onto that channel. They never popped up on my rafting channel, you know. But I was just, and so I just watched it. I mean, from an atheist perspective, no coincidence there. That was just the genre that I was going after, supernatural type of stuff, and then, yeah, that was kind of popped up. And then so I watched a lot of it, and I was just like, oh, yeah. Very easy take-home message is, I just love from that channel, one of the topics that I've heard or the statements that they've made is like, if you have anything that you define as supernatural, that, you know, it's from that kind of generic definition of supernatural, that you can prove or show, you can prove something supernatural, ghosts, even just something original, probably has, you know, I mean, how can it be supernatural if it's in the natural world, blah, 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 blah. But if you can be the first to actually show what the heck's a ghost or a supernatural thing, there was a contest where you win $11 million. So, and I haven't used this one yet, but now you have something useful when you are having a hallucination. I do a lot of stuff, I mean, I don't even know what time it is, probably like 3 a.m., you know, approaching 4. Sometimes at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. hour, that's going to maybe trigger
like I'm 3 a.m. in my basement, you know what I mean? But like I've done the different hours, like nothing really phases me. But it could. I mean, my parents are in this house, so that's kind of a creature comfort. But I'm still okay when I work at a cabin and I'll work there at 3 a.m. I'll work there all night. It's in the woods, and yeah, we got some neighbors down the way, but you're not going to bother them at night. But I'm mainly worried about like animals, mountain lion, bear. You know, during that season when they're through there, that can be kind of nerve-wracking. But I will have the hair stand up when the creek there at that cabin makes so many different noises that I will just get afraid, you know, because I can't tell what sounds are coming from where and why it's making those sounds, and so my brain starts to freak out. And so what do? Well, if your brain's saying something supernatural, like especially if you're in your house and getting scared, what the heck natural? I mean, if you think somebody's outside and yeah, it's gonna a predator come in, yeah, that could be terrifying, especially for, yeah, especially neighborhoods that break-ins can be not even like gender related, just anywhere where, you know, it's like, dang, someone could just bust into my house. That can be literally terrifying. But if you're just worried about ghosts, here's the point. You can be like, you can get a smile on your face. You're like, dude, I'm so worried. Like I'm totally freaking out. Well, it's like, take down some notes. Listen closer. Grab a cell phone. Grab a camera. Because if you get any sort of good footage or evidence, you can get $11 million. So anytime you're freaking out due to something supernatural, just be like, dude, I'm going to make $11 million. Like, yeah, bring it on. Come out behind that. But you're going to freak yourself out if you're like, come out. You see, even right here, I was like, I was motioning for something to come out behind that door. And check it out. When I did that, a shadow, just even here, there's so many lights in this room, and from over here, a shadow just moved on that door. So you're instantaneously going to scare yourself. So that's also what you need to know. Getting freaked out, having mental illness, having paranoia, it's a real deal. I don't know how much I'm going to talk about it tonight. But yeah, like I'm even on point, like my brain is triggered now at that door because it saw when I did my hand like this, the shadow went just right on the edge of that doorway. And it makes it seem like now there's something behind there. Because I said, hey, come out from behind that door. And then it looked like something came out from behind that door. And it didn't. It just like, but even, you know, that could be like a monster like reaching its hand across. But like, no, this is scary. Because I don't know what's behind that door. So now when I am categorically manic, I don't know if I'm dead or alive. So things like that, I have no idea. Like Twilight Zone, you go to open the door, like Beetlejuice even, that was kind of a comedy, but like, dude, you go to open the door, freaking different universe. On that river, on the way back, I was so gone that I just had to close my eyes. They had to lead me. I really want to talk to that group of people just from the perspective of like, hey, yeah, a time went by, I'm healthy. I'm so curious of what your perspectives were seeing me in a state of schizophrenia. Because I have bipolar, but when it manifests at such a high delusional, hallucinogenic level, I mean, it's categorically schizophrenia. But I only have it during manic states, so I still fall into the category of bipolar. And as long as I don't get into those full-on manic episodes, I can keep myself from getting scared. But I also have 20 years experience to like, but like I said, I was so far out of sleep, I couldn't rationalize if I was even awake. So even all the skills that I had from the first, whatever episode that was, the first 4 episodes, that 5th or 6th episode, that was too much for me to handle. So that also, like, when I tell people you're gonna fail if you're gonna try to go off your meds is so true. You're gonna fail every time you go into a manic episode. when it comes down to that, then it's just a matter of get to safety. I was in a position where I had no safety. I was on a river. It's like, when is the next time I'm going to get safety? At a certain point, I was so in. There's no way I could just be like, oh yeah, and by the way, when we get back, it would be a really good idea if I was in the hospital. No, I just got dropped back at my parents' house, which, seemed like a safe haven. That's not where I needed to be. I needed to be on meds. But I recover so fast, and you can't take that for granted. And I don't, for sure. I fight for my right to be like, whoa, dude, like, I can recover so quickly from devastating manias, and then this is, oh, you're just going to go into the darkest hell depression you've ever been. And it's like, nope. And and I might throw into the game that's just like, well, I think it's because all these other categorical things that I do, especially with diet, no one wants to hear about your diet, and I don't care. I'll tell you, but I'm not from the perspective. I've watched enough of the people that I follow on YouTube that I've, I hope I don't get brainwashed too much. Sometimes you do. You get kind of like you're like, oh, I'm going to follow this guy teeth and nail, all the way. And I've had so much chronic back pain and stuff that all comes back to that atheism. It's not atheism. It was just thinking for yourself. Let's say you just call it like that. How do you think for yourself? And do you think for yourself? Or, maybe, to a certain perspective, having other people think for you is also good. Like, is there people in your life that you trust and you see their life shaping out a certain way? Even that, it's I keep using the word scientific, but I do. I want to see I'm okay with being like, hey, this has no science behind it, but it's safe enough to try, and you might get a result. Because that's still part of the natural world. Like, if you're hallucinating from something that you think is in the spiritual plane, or like hallucinations are all, they come at you like that, when it's nothing more, oh my gosh, I think I'm okay with picking on my dad just a little bit. I did mention to... I'm going to give it a go. Just because it's fun, playful. It's fun, playful dinner conversation. Yeah, and it paints the whole picture. Because I don't mind sharing most everything. But if there's something that's like, oh yeah, that's no big deal. Yeah. Well, let's say someone thinks their house is haunted. My dad thought the house that he was working on, he's like, yeah, I thought it was kind of haunted. It's like, I get it. Like, our whole family, I'll be frank. I'll blame it on religion. It's like, my whole family's part of the Catholic Church. And it's not religion, and it's not, words are words, blah, 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 life is life. But it's the believing something is so behind that door. Like, so behind that door. There is something just behind that doorway. And that's freaking crazy. It's just going to drive you nuts. Now you're going to have to fucking check. And by the time you go around that doorway, if you see the fraction of a shadow, you're going to freaking freak yourself out. So it's just like, you already set up a trap. So that's what I had to deal with religion. Catholic Church. You get indoctrinated to a degree where my first episode, I had to deal with all the crap of being, part of a Catholic church we had a huge cathedral. It's all dark and haunted. I don't know. Blah, blah. It's like you have to figure that out now that you're having hallucinations. It didn't make it easier. It doesn't make it easier that I said, oh yeah, there's something behind the door, like bring it on. Because that's the first level of paranoia. If you smoke pot and you're under 30, don't smoke pot. I mean, if you don't want to have mental illness, try not to, don't smoke pot. Like, I was straight-laced, and I do not like peer pressure. I went to college, and I just wanted to, oh my God. I already have social anxiety. I just want to, go to class, and that's where I enjoyed my life. And then, people aren't that way. I live in a reality where social pressure is actually bringing you down. It's hey, you should smoke pot. Like, everyone on my floor was half the floor dropped out of college. I was on one of those floors. I was not, it's dang, I should have been in the honors. But anyway, that's that life is life. You got to deal with that. I'm okay with that. But I broke peer pressure sophomore year. Smoked pot. Didn't smoke a lot, but plenty. Did it cause my first mental health episode? Well, it led to deep, deep depression, so bad that I had to, a bad river trip gone south, trying to canoe down even class 2 rapids, got freaked, thought I was going to die, thought I died in the river, couldn't get sleep. That was the first, nasty sleepless night where I'm just didn't get probably 2 other nights of sleep. First not experiencing sleep, had no idea what to do with. That year, my brother realized I had so much social anxiety that, you're just whoa, dude, this kid's gonna, I didn't know about suicide, and I say that as a joke. I got bullied so much in middle school that if I knew about suicide, I probably would have, thought that was an out. And I don't even know why I'm being frank with that statement. That statement's pretty disgusting in itself because just from the standpoint, this is all adult content, 18 and older for my channel, but yeah, because you lose people. We are, it's an open doorway now, of oh wow, that's an option for people, and now, yeah, and it could have been an option for me. I just have to deal with the repercussions of being horribly bullied for 3 years middle school. Every lunch getting kicked, coming in getting kicked up the stairs. Just constant, where are these, group of 5 people, oh, they loved it. It's just and I was, because they were bullying me so hard, that the only people that I could interact with super bad. I'm hesitant to go into the middle school as my brother's middle school teacher. I was wanting to go to the principal and just asking, what are you guys doing? But I don't have to. They are making great strides in middle school. The topic is number one. I already made a video, on the, I subbed in elementary schools. One of the, here's the 4 things we do as an elementary school, and one of them is, safety. Being safe. be safe. And my uncle's and I don't mean to throw my uncle on the bus, he's just he's just what? That's the core concept, is be safe? It's you have this idea of, educate, be the superpower, make sure all our kids are successful and stuff. And it's you can make someone safe. If you can feel they're going all day with a blanket around them, and I'll be open. I wear a bite guard. I just got this lower one, so I don't have to you see it on the upper teeth all the time. It's this bite guard reduces my anxiety tenfold. It is the blanket that I wear. It helps me sleep. I lost it on the Middle Fork with that group of 17 that I went most psychotic, lost every night of sleep. And I lost my mouth guard the 3rd night. Even the first 2 I might have been getting an hour, just still not enough. But once I lost my bite guard, I was I'm so done. Because my teeth didn't have a, they just start grinding, or they don't have a place to rest. And so I mean, even just the fact that my teeth didn't have a place to like, go to bed against the mouth guard, or just even just rest, I mean, for that reason, that literally shut off all hope of getting to sleep. So sometimes on adventures, I, kind of bring a hoard of stuff just because I have no idea what I need, what creature comfort. But I get pretty good. I kind of know what I need. Like, what are the things I absolutely have to have to make sure I get to sleep. So that was one of them. But yeah, middle school, hopefully it's doing a good job. Maybe I want to go to the print, but they already did that because my brothers all have had kids, all have gone through middle school almost, and and I was, I just wanted to make sure that my experience was heard, so it didn't happen twice. Like, even just bullying, discrimination, it can be such a hereditary, biological, if I'm just speaking frankly, my mom has a lot of Polish, and even just categorically or racially, they have gotten singled out, even just by look. Like, I mean, it's weird how something like that can just be down to a very, I want to use the word innate, but like, you don't want to use something of negativity as giving it kind of a stronghold like that. Hopefully it's something to overcome. But yeah, and my dad's kind of Irish, so you have this like Polish Irish. It's like, yeah, for being like a white, like those are like the, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. Like those are probably the two that had the hardest go just culturally. That's not too much of a topic I want to get to. I'll just cap it as, yeah, there's no Polish box to check or Irish box to check. It's just white. So, I mean, if you have to, yeah, no, and I'm totally fine with, yeah, see, that's hard to bring up topics. That's why I'm bringing up topics that I know. Rafting, mental health. See the battles that I can bring good information to. Maybe help some people. Separating yourself from being bullied. So, I mean, this is so interesting making this because it's like I want to block out that part of my past, but I can't. Like, people don't know the limitations. Like, I got bullied so much in middle school that I couldn't go to a social, like, and then they had social dances. It's like, that was it. Like, my dance career was absolutely shattered at that age. I don't go to a lot of weddings, don't have that kind of friends or anything like that, and so I categorically don't dance. So like, I'm probably real bad at it. Unless I'm manic, then I'm just kind of like if I recorded myself, it's probably still not that great, but I'm at least in like super, like, I think I'm in really good rhythm. But that's all. It's just it's a medicine at that point. Like manic dancing or like getting into groove with something. It's very therapeutic. When I was losing all my sleep, at least that crew on the Middle Fork, they were types of friends that would listen to music and then have like dance party or just dance at the campfires and just real. And that was such a spiritual experience for me. I mean, it was just a cool experience. Like, just like one of those, just like, why aren't we doing this every night of our lives? But then when I come back to reality, it's just like, yeah, there's this huge barrier to like social pressures, like, And I get it. Yeah, you want to look good dancing and, like, I don't know. But, I would trade feeling good dancing to looking good. I mean, looking good's a fruitless pursuit. But anyway. No. It's also passing the baton. It's pretty cool. But it also sets high standards. But anyway, so yeah, getting bullied set up depression in college. At some point, you're going to crack. Don't smoke pot till you're 30. Till you got back pain and you need help with that. Because yeah, you're going to get thrown over the edge. I don't know. It's like, that's how mental illness can come on. It can be hereditary, but it takes a traumatic event to usually kind of pop its ugly head up. And then kind of once these symptoms come up, man, you got your first mental health episode. I mean, usually you get a severe mental health break that brings you to like kind of suicidality, hospitalization, or just like, whoa, dude, my life is crazy. Yeah, that's where it's gonna be lifelong or feel lifelong, or it don't matter, because it might be lifelong from there. And that's when it kind of becomes a handicap. And that's okay too. Like, I don't know, do smoke marijuana. The more people that have mental health issues and maybe seek treatment, the bigger the community will be. So then, that sounds like a shady comment or backhanded, but it also brings up the topic that I really like how groups portray themselves. So, our current education on autism spectrum is at a great reduction of stigma level, or just from the education. You know, dating on the spectrum, like, such a cool show. I mean, they should have dating on the poles, you know, or something like that for bipolar, you know, or any mental health issue. Part of autism community, not an illness, something innate. And I would want mental illness to fit into that same category, but I'm okay with them. Having the autism community having that as a strength, as an identity, because that's what I feel. Is like, yeah, I could latch onto that. The only difference I see, like the spoken difference from maybe that community that I've heard, is that, you know, like, you don't take meds for autism. That's not true. I mean, because you take meds for symptoms. Like, if you got symptoms, we can take a med for that. You know, like that's like from my perspective, that's the PC way of saying why I take meds. For symptoms. No matter what the hell you're going through. You don't have to label anything. And you don't have to label yourself as mentally ill. Mental illness. Yeah. I mean, that can be by the wayside. I like the categorical. I don't really care about the categories of mental health, mental illness, because I just relate. You say that, it's like, we got something to relate with. Relate to. So that's cool from my perspective. Difference between, potentially, that I see between autism, mental illness, is that there can be mental illness can be late onset, you know, or can be like 16, 24, you know, 40, 70. So that's what I see. Categorical differences: autism, mental health. That topic, bringing up stigma. If you see a group that's reducing their stigma the best, like, that's what you should do too. So I enjoy a lot of mental health reduction of stigma commercials. It's good. Tip of the iceberg. I mean, but every decade is way better than the previous decade. And I'm almost old enough, or I definitely am old enough now to be like, yes, a decade and a half ago, 2 decades ago, when I was diagnosed, which that should have been pretty progressive, but it wasn't. Freaking no one knew anything. I remember like, and I had, like I said, severe depression in college after a traumatic event. It finally hit a headway, and it wasn't until after I graduated that I dropped into a depression again, went on a what people would call like a radical diet, but basically something that actually kind of pumped myself out of depression. So in a way, radically curing depression, but then kind of swinging the other way into mania. And being the first one, I had no idea what to do. And it's kind of the start of this. That's part of this book. That's the first mania. I went back onto normal food, heavy wheat dairy, allergy inducing. Those are the two ingredients that I have religiously avoided for 15 years, wheat and dairy. And soy. Those are the only 3 allergens. And, you know, I'm probably at a buffer where I could eat wheat and dairy, but they are gateways to a lot of eating habits I just don't do anymore. Like, I don't even eat chips. Like, I'm not allergic to them, but you give me one person that eats any amount of chips and they can tell me that they feel better than before they ate chips. I don't know. I'll give that one person $10 one time. I don't know. You can be like, I feel great. Chips, donuts, brownies, cookies, and we're talking like, I don't know. Yeah, you can't be like on a big through hike and be like, oh, I just ate a cookie, because that's going to give you plenty of energy. But we're talking like, dude, I'm just watching TV. I'm going to eat a few cookies or brownies, cake, chips. See, categorically, I don't eat any of those, even if they were gluten-free. Eggs I'm moderately allergic to, and I just want to check in, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to sound douchey, but like, yeah, if you're still watching this, but no, this is a great documentary for my. It's just diary. It's almost word vomit for most people, but it gives me a cadence of what my speed is with hypomania, and I'm not even. I mean, yes, I'm categorically hypomanic, but I'm like, oh, I'm not even that, because this is just my normal state. Feeling pretty good. But I've been like this for about a month, kind of on the edge of hypomania. I would say I'm always like this. It's sleep related. The second I go 36 hours without sleep, then boom, I'm in a state of hypomania. Then if I get 12 hours of but if I don't have like, hey, it's been a month before I've gone like a 36-hour wake cycle, but it hasn't, so that's also data in my recorder. And it's winter time. And it brings up the topic of like, I have handicaps, but there's still things that I want to do with my life, and I try to check the American boxes of like enough work, you know, to satisfy whatever part of a brain that like society says you're doing your part, you know what I mean, like with what you got, you know, to feel satisfied. Cool. This brings up a topic. Your true friends, you could care less what they do. That's a true friend. All my true, I mean, like, I don't care what you do. Yeah. I don't want to go into very specifics. I guess the specifics are that make it make sense, and it's the interesting topic I like to talk about is like, oh yeah, you're 2 years in prison. All right, let's say, ooh, yeah, let's not make it cryptic, but hopefully make it fun. Yeah, your friend kills someone, I don't know, on purpose? That would suck. But like, they're still your friend? Like, Jesus. Yeah, it's awful. But like, it's still my friend. I'll go visit him in prison. I'm just bringing up a concept of social pressures are crazy for everyone. Like, People don't have mental illness, do have mental illness. Like, what you think on the other side of that lens, it's wintertime, so like on the busy streets, commercial, like I remember shoveling snow for like a commercial sidewalk, and you would push the snow into the street, and the plow would push it back onto the sidewalk. And then so all winter it's this back and forth of like pushing it your way, and that is social pressure at its finest. It's just like, this is where I want the bar to be, or the ideals to be, and then you push it back and be like, nope. That's where it is. So it's back and forth. It's very interesting. Oh, so embarrassing. There might be a time. I was even reading it, trying to like read it, and it's like, ugh, I sound awful. But the more I do this and get good at like, just being like, yeah, I remember that voice. And I remember that he's a person that's, of value, that like, I get it. Yeah, you can share something that's a little uncomfortable. Interesting though, I mean, if you want to see schizophrenia on a page, manic, it's just like, and then right at the circle it says, I know. I don't know. Anyway, it's intriguing. That was the whole point of like writing something. This is my first, It's just, it's like, a little universe egg guy. We are the Eggman. That's like a Beatles lyric. Yeah. Sounds like, no, makes no sense, but it does. My dad, I have such a close relationship to my dad. That's why I want to bring things up in a tasteful way. But he read this, and then he kind of got manic himself. At the time, not requiring any hospitalization, any meds, but depression rubs off. Mania can rub off. Probably going to rub off through the screen. But, and not in a cryptic way, but it's just kind of interesting. There is the topic of group hysteria. That's kind of almost a scientific thing. That's why I'm so curious to talk to members of that 17 on that raft trip, to be like, what was your perspective? Because there were some times where, I just know from the manic perspective, it's like you might say things because you just have this weird, fluid intuition. You're probably spewing out more, or like, you're not more connected. It seems like you are. Maybe you are. But then you'll just say something that you're like, whoa, that, lack of a better term, like seems prophetic, or like, and I've heard the autism community one of the symptoms is a person with autism can get blamed for like, something, like the electricity's out. Well, what did you do? Like, why did you make the electricity go out? And just that statement is so taking you back centuries. It's like so maybe not helpful. But also, it's not. It's almost a futuristic statement too. It's like, I want to know if there is a connection. But no, you don't.